Hello YouTubers, today I'm going to be replacing my rear window on my main door with an AP Products thin shade black frame tinted window with a recessed pleated shade. Apologize for any background noise you might be hearing. Not sure if this camera is going to be picking it up or not, but right now I've got my internal heater going on the camper, and I also have my garage heater running. However, both doors are closed, but I can still hear it, so maybe you can as well. Now, I've watched 3 videos on installing this particular window. One, it's RV with Tito. The other one is I Love RV Life. And another one was one I haven't really seen before. But the first 2 both taped the outside of the old window before they just remove the screws to help prevent it from falling out. I've gotten some 3M tape that I keep handy pretty much most of the time. I checked it, even though our temperature right now is in the 40s, it still sticks pretty good to the door, and I think that's going to work out pretty well. So I went ahead and I put on just 4 pieces of tape that will give me a little bit of added support since I don't have a second pair of hands. Now in the box I had basically 4 parts and the instructions. One is my inside window, with the glass that's already pretty well stuck to it. All 3 of the people that were videoing it or installing it in the past, they removed this glass. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep the glass in there because basically it's in the right position and it's firmly attached to the seal. It would be rather difficult to pull it. I could pull it up, but I don't want to risk cracking it or breaking it, and I think it's in a good position anyway. All I'll do is just kind of wipe it off with a litless cloth just to make sure everything's off it. The other thing is the shade. This has been one of the most difficult things that everybody's had trouble putting in. I think it's going to be alright. I've installed blinds before, and after looking at the instructions and studying the inside frame, I feel rather confident I can get it in alright. Also has the new screws, again the instructions, and then the interior frame. Now the one thing that I learned off of RVing with Tito when he did his instruction is that he had made a mistake, and he pointed out the fact that there were 2 drain holes on the bottom, and that's right here. You can't really see them, but there are 3 weep holes that looks like for moisture or condensation. I made sure I'm going to be putting that on the bottom. The other 2 did not even recognize that. Otherwise it looks like it doesn't matter either way. I'll have to double check on the instructions to see if it does specify which ends up. But basically I'm going to be following Tito's example and putting the weep holes on the bottom. Now to save time, I removed all but 3 screws on the inner frame, and so then I'll go ahead and I'll pull the other 3 out, pull the inner frame off, and then I'll go ahead and pop the outer frame with the glass out. Well, I hate to show you my backside, but I was cleaning off what was left of the old seal on the outer window. When I did pull that frame off, the glass did start to pull out, so definitely that tape is a very good idea. The only thing I might have done a little bit differently is maybe take all the pieces of tape off except for the bottom one, and then just kind of fold it down, and I think it would have come off a little bit more securely. I didn't drop it, so it worked out all right. Now I've got a little bit of a ring left there around the outside of the window where the seal was, and I'm just going to take a little bit of Windex and clean that off. Another tip that I would probably recommend is, instead of using your steps to your camper or RV, I would recommend a small ladder like what I've been using here. It's a lot more stable. It gets you a little up there, a little higher towards the top of the glass and top of the window. And so that's probably one of the most essential tools you should probably have. Now, one of the other things I did, excuse me, is I folded in my handrail so it doesn't get in my way. Made it a lot easier to kind of maneuver around when I was both taking out the screws on the interior side of the door, and then actually when I'm getting ready to go up to clean the outside of the door, it's out of the way. So I moved the ladder over a little bit to my left. That way it'll be a better shot for you. You just don't have to get to see my backside while I'm doing it. You actually see what I'm doing. Actually see what I'm doing. So. Now I got most of the residue off. There's like a little brown line around there. In fact, I even used some roof cleaner. I didn't have any alcohol handy, but I've actually cleaned it up pretty good, and I'm totally confident with the new caulking that they have around the new window that seal will make a good adhesion, and I won't have any leakage on that. So it's basically just a little discoloration, and I'm totally confident that I'm going to get a good seal out of it. Now I tore about 6 pieces of tape instead of just 4, and just for a little added precaution, and made sure the window's nice and clean and neat. Everything is all centered, and I'm ready to put the exterior part of the window in. And so if everything goes on well, then this is going to turn out to be a good video. If it doesn't, it's going to be costing me another piece of glass or another window, and you get to watch it all happen. So hopefully this will go good. Now I've got that all installed, and it looks like it's set right in. It just slipped right into the spot. The one thing I would add is down here on the lower corner, you will see a stamp where it's for the glass manufacturer, and so to have it right side up, in my case it was down here in the bottom. So that's what determined for me which way I was going to put the glass in there. Now the shade went in pretty easily, and again it's pretty much universal as far as how it fits in, but there are tabs on the bottom and at the top of the inner frame of the interior window. I just simply took the rubber band off the shade and it just snaps right in. You want to remember that this, in fact I've already done it wrong, that this little lip right here, which is actually your handle, is facing away from the glass. So I guess you get to see it done the right way in the first place. So you flip it around, and again, it's pretty clear to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like it says in the instructions, there are 5 little clips. And it's rounded up here at the top on each corner, and that's what goes in there. So I just simply line it up and push it in. The same is true for the bottom. You want to make sure your cords are in the channel, and that too just snaps right in. So then it just slides up and down. So that should be it for that. And it's ready to install. Okay, YouTubers, just a quick tip. I fumbled around a little bit with this, but I was being very careful not to put too much pressure on the outer glass or the outer frame. But what I found to work out quite well is that I had just a couple of screws and a Phillips screwdriver, and I mounted the first screw in the bottom hole because that was the easiest one to find and line up to. Once I was able to get the threads to catch on the outer frame, then it was easier for me to line up the screw with the upper side, or the upper portion of the outer frame, and I could get that started. Then I just tighten those down with my Phillips screwdriver, and I hand tighten them down very carefully so that I've got support on both sides. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the screws in very carefully. I'm going to use my power screwdriver, but I'm not going to torque them down until I get all done. Then I'll use my hand screwdriver. It only takes a couple of revolutions for them to catch, and you don't want to over torque them. If you do, you'll strip out the receiver part of the threads of the frame. I just dropped one of my screws. That's okay, we'll get that. I highly recommend watching several videos on the installation of this window. Everybody has a different way of doing it. Anything from just chaos to some real good sound advice. Hopefully this video will help you as well. And I can almost say without question that it's probably going to be on the positive side. It doesn't look like I'm going to have a problem. You know, and I dropped a screw. I'm guessing we might even have some extra ones here. In fact, I'm sure of it. I think the manufacturer anticipated that you may drop or lose one or two, and maybe they saw Tito's video because it seemed that he had dropped them too. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down by hand. When I was using the power driver, it only took about 2 to 3 revolutions to seat them, and it's probably maybe a half a turn on each one. I'll tighten down some of the top ones here first too. That way I don't have any gaps. The most difficult part for me here is the sun is kind of in my eyes a little bit. Overall, I'd say this is a pretty easy installation. And if you just take your time and just take some safety precautions, I think it'll go in rather easily. I did have a couple of issues with shade popping out of its slots, but by carefully putting them back into where it belongs, and then just pushing on it until it snaps, not too hard mind you, it'll go in rather easily. The tape, I think, is an excellent idea. I did consider taking a couple pieces of tape and putting them on shade to keep it from popping out, but after I did, it seemed to, there we go, it seemed to, you could see it. There we go. Yeah, it looks like I've got a good shade. Overall, I will show the shade that goes all the way up. It's a little stiff right now. And it goes all the way down. Seems to be very durable. Put it halfway right now. But yeah, it went up rather easily. I'd say the process takes maybe about 30 minutes. A little more, a little less, depending on your skill level. For me, it probably took a little over an hour, maybe an hour and a half, just because I was doing camera positioning. But and then you want to take a few minutes to read the instructions. It does give you a couple pointers in there. It does reference. So it tells you to put some tape on the glass and that sort of thing. I am happy that I did leave the glass in the outer frame. I think that was a very good idea. I didn't have to move it, and so I left it alone. Now, before I forget, I'll pull my tape off from the outside. You want to make sure you have a good, strong tape. I happen to have 3M Max Temp 200 degrees. It's L230 HT, which is, I guess, the temperature rating. I don't know, maybe 230 degrees, high temperature. But it doesn't seem to be leaving any residue on either the frame or the door, and it leaves, you know, as a good secure fit. I don't seem to have any. It seems to seal pretty well around there. I might run some caulk over that a little later at the top. But all in all, that appears to be a very successful project, and I'd say between skill levels of 1 and 5, 5 being the highest, you could probably install that with a 2. I would recommend having maybe somebody give you a hand as well, but read the instructions. It goes rather easily. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this helps you. Here's just a few shots of the finished project. I hope this window installation helps you in the future, and if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And most of all, thanks for watching.